video together.
Hey, you gonna watch the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I want to, but I can't. I have this thing I have to go to.
What thing?
Well, it's like, it's kind of like church.
Little holy water. The food looked unblessed. I'm sorry, I just need to scrape that.
You gonna watch the game on Sunday?
No, I have mass, so I'm not gonna miss mass for a game. I'm Catholic. This is really important.
Hey, you gonna watch the game on Sunday?
No, I'm gonna record it. I have church at 6 o'clock.
Where do you go to church?
St. Timothy's, where do you go?
Well, I haven't really been in a while.
You should come sometime. I think you're really gonna like it.
Are you gonna play?
No.
Well, is everything okay?
I'm just really worried because my mom's getting tested for cancer tomorrow.
Oh.
I'm just a little worried because my mom is getting tested for cancer tomorrow.
Oh, that's no good. Has she been to confession recently? You want to get on that. If something happens to her, you don't want her to die in a state of serious sin.
My mom's getting tested for cancer tomorrow. I'm so sorry to hear about that. I'll definitely pray for her. Thank you.
Hey, can we listen to some music?
Yeah, pick whatever you want.
Dirty, dirty song, explicit lyrics. I bet you that your mama don't want you to hear.
I love that song.
And making it glamorous.
Yeah, it's real gangster.
This, I'm like a nasty booger on your jacket. I make noise
my jam.
It's a passion.
All that you boy.
Play this song at home and you might get grounded.
Hey, do you mind if we listen to some music?
What did you have in mind?
Let's go check on the radio.
No, let's not ingest worldly poisons. How about we sing? I've been learning some Gregorian chant.
Gregory who? Hey, can we listen to some music?
Sure. Have you ever heard of Ike Dolo?
No,
So great. You gotta listen to it.
awesome.
Now, I hope you laughed just a little bit. Did you laugh just a little? Now, I think the video stipulates to make us laugh a little, maybe offer a few helpful suggestions, and maybe just makes us cringe. Just a little. For you, does it do that? Right. So as you can imagine, from the video, but also from the children's message this morning, the word that really came to my mind as I began praying for today's sermon was the word evangelism. Now, I know that evangelism has the ability to be a little scary word for us, right? We may think it's confusing, we may think it's scary, and it may be a word that doesn't resonate much with us, right? And I love this. Evangelism is not a dirty word, right? Making evangelism good news again. I know that evangelism is a little bit of a word that we don't really know what to do with. So, to get right to the point, I want to define what evangelism is. And I got this definition from an author that I like named Elaine Keith, who's a professor at Duke University. This was her definition for evangelism. Evangelism is the holy initiation of people into the reign of God as revealed in Jesus Christ. Now that's quite lofty, right? So let's just break it down for a moment, right? So evangelism is the holy initiation, right? It's the holy gathering, inviting people in. It's the connecting with people, the initiating of people into what? Well, the reign of God. What is that, right? The relationship with God, the kingdom of God, into a personal relationship with God. So we're inviting people in to a relationship with God. And what's next? As revealed in Jesus Christ. Why would it be revealed in Jesus Christ? Because that's what is so clear about our faith as Christians, was that Jesus was born on Christmas or whenever it was, and we still celebrate all of that. And so for Jesus, his evangelism tended to be around three things, right? He taught, like in synagogues and on mountaintops. He preached, and he also healed. Those were kind of his three big evangelism tools. But for the church, I think at the heart of why we exist is evangelism. Our practices, our ethos, we exist, and what we believe all revolves around evangelism. And evangelism is inviting people into a relationship with God as revealed in Jesus Christ. So, when it comes to the root of evangelism, I think that Christmas is quite, perfect time to think about this, right? Because on Christmas, Jesus came, and he was born, and we realized that that's what life is all about. I was thinking about Christmas and why I love, even though sometimes the Christmas season annoys me because of the commercials and all of that. But outside of all of those things that frustrate me, why I love Christmas that comes around every year, it's a yearly reminder of what matters most, and that's Jesus, right? Regardless of all the external things, at the core of why Christmas exists, it means something because of Christmas and because of Jesus. So Christmas is this time that we acknowledge that 2,000 years ago, Jesus came. But not just came, now we are waiting for Jesus to come back again, aren't we? Right? So Jesus came, and we're prayerfully, hopefully waiting for Jesus' second return. So every Christmas, we acknowledge that Jesus came once, and we're hoping that Jesus comes back again. And so then I always ask myself, well, what are we to do? What are we to do in this in-between time? Jesus came once. Jesus is going to come again. What are we to do in this in-between time? So I thought, well, this is exactly why the church exists. We exist for this middle time as we acknowledge that Christ has come and we wait for Jesus to come back again. And so I think the church exists to live within this tension of Jesus already coming, yet waiting for his return. And so we live to be evangelists. And we have a church for evangelism. So I think the evangelism that we have today at the heart is relational. We love one another. If I loved Diane so much, because I do, right? So I love Diane so much. I always pick on her because she's like my first person to look at, right? So Diane, if I love Diane so much, right? My love for her should make me want to tell her about Jesus, right? Because at the heart of evangelism is relationships. And so relationships that spur me on to want to tell her about the good news of Jesus. But the reality is this. The world has shifted, hasn't it? So with the raising of hand, would you say the world has changed in 50 years? It's pretty good. What about 25 years? What about 5 years? So the world has changed, right? For good or bad, this isn't a death sentence in the world right now. I'm not trying to negate the world, but it has changed, right? So if we believe that the world has changed, has the church changed? Let's think with the raising of hand. Has the church changed in 50 years? 25 years? What about 5 years? So the two of those have changed. The church has changed because the culture has changed. One clear picture of this, as I was thinking about just this shift, and again, I hope you hear, it's not a negative sentiment on the world, I'm just acknowledging the change that has occurred. So one of them is that people aren't flocking back to the church the same rate that they did 30 years ago. Once couples were married, they would come back to the church for the sake of their children, but no longer is the church the centerpiece of spiritual growth. And I recognize this in my own life, right? You can go on the internet, and you can listen to worship music, to hymns, to way better sermons than mine, better worship services than maybe what we have, right? You can go online and get top-notch stuff. I do it on a regular basis. I listen to 1 or 2 sermons a week on my drives. I listen to worship music all the time. I can get that from my own office, or from my own car, from my own house. So no longer is the church the only place where people can worship, where people can learn about God. It's no longer at the center. It's no longer even at the center of our communities any longer, right? The heydays of the church, right? We may feel that. We're marked by filled pews, weren't they? But not just filled pews, lofty budgets, right? So those two, I think, went intertwined. And I think we could often make the assumption that most people knew about God, right? That in our world, even outside of the church, we could think most people have heard about the scriptures or heard about God. I think part of that stems from a prayer in school and scripture reading in school, right? And so those things were such a normal part of the day as, like the pledge is today, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of America. So those two go together. So I hear today from maybe older colleagues of mine that they are mournful of how the church has changed. Pastors who are about to retire, they recognize how different the church is today and how different it is to pastor. But I also know that it's just not my colleagues, but sometimes it's us in the church. That we kind of talk about just the shift of how the church in the world has changed so much in maybe 30 years, but maybe even in 5 as well. And so as I thought about that, the reality is this. What worked before to connect with people, to evangelize, might not work today. How pastors used to grow churches or how we used to tell people about Jesus might not work today. I think the reality is it kind of led me to 2 conclusions when I was thinking about this. The first one was this. The world is absolutely changing. We would agree with that. As we think about how the church is changing, we maybe don't know what to do. I thought about this as well. The church must reclaim its voice and power and find fresh ways to continue speaking and connecting with people on our streets and in our communities. So we can acknowledge the world is changing. Then the root of the number 2 is realizing how much the world has changed, and so how we used to connect with people before might not be the same. And so if it's no longer the same, we must reclaim its voice and power, because I'm believing that the church had power in the past, that it was influential in the past. So it's not that we have to find a new way. I just think we have to reclaim the church's voice and power. But then, what are the new, fresh ways to continue speaking and connecting with people in our communities and in our streets? Does that make sense? We follow along so far. I want to make sure I'm going too fast through this morning. So those are 2 assumptions that I have when I think about church ministry today. And so for the past year, really I think for the full past year, I met with the vision team of the church. And I made them read books. I made them pray. I made them walk around our community, maybe a mile or so. I don't know how much I made them walk. I made them pray. I made them talk and to read a book, and I made them pray. I made them ask questions in a survey here in September, and I made them pray. Are you getting the drift here? Because I made them pray because I have one clear assumption. And maybe it's an assumption that I will die on because I believe it's so true. I believe that God is still on the move. And I believe that God is still on the move here in State Line and within 5 or 10 miles of us, where we all come from. But I believe God is on the move. So if I believe that God is still active, what is our part in that? What is our role in that? And how are we going to align ourselves to be so in tune with the movement of the Holy Spirit? So after all that prayer, and a lot of prayer, after all that conversation, right? Gordell's even chuckling, right? Because she was a part of those conversations, and I recognized how much I emphasized her. I mean, the first time we met, I'm going on a tangent now, but the first time we met, we prayed for more than half of the meeting. I mean, it was 45 minutes I made us pray, right? I mean, that's how faithful I wanted to be to God and to prayer. Because I truly believe that God is on the way. So, one of the things that came out of that was I asked them, towards the end of our time, to come up with just fresh language around why we exist as a church. not new. Our mission as a church has never changed and will never change. But what is fresh language that we can use to truly encapsulate how God is on the move and what is our part in that? So the first part was we came up with a fresh mission statement of the church. And this was the mission statement. State line exists to make new disciples of Jesus Christ. That's it. Why do we exist? To make new disciples of Jesus Christ. To make new followers of Jesus Christ. I mean, I know that there was a mission and vision statement before. I couldn't memorize it. The vision team couldn't memorize it. So what is our mission? To make new disciples of Jesus Christ. That's what I want to be about. We want to be about helping and inviting our neighbors, our old friends, the friends we even haven't met yet, our family members to become followers of Jesus Christ. The man who was born on Christmas morning started this off. So for as long as I'm your pastor, 2, 4, 6, 10 years, however long God allows me to be here, this is what I want us to be about. Making new disciples of Jesus Christ. That's it. And I'll tell you, if this is not what we're about, I'll offer you my letter of resignation right now. Right now. I'll give you my keys. You can keep the paycheck. And I will leave. And maybe I'll even ask us to lock up the doors, board up the windows, and call it quits. Now maybe that's a little extreme. Now you're looking at me like, what is he doing? Has he lost his mind, right? And I probably have, right? But really, I say that because I think that's what Jesus wants us to be about. Making new disciples of him. And that's biblical. Matthew 28, right? And that is so clear. So how do we do that? That's a 30,000 view of why we exist, right? We exist to make new disciples of Jesus Christ. And intentional, I'm going to call it intentional, is just new is the key word. I think sometimes, which is not a bad thing, we get other disciples from the churches. And that's not bad. We can still celebrate that. But I think the new, who are the new people that haven't known or don't know about Jesus? How do we tell them that? So that's why we exist. So how do we do that? It's found in a fresh vision statement that the vision team and I are doing. So how will we accomplish our mission? Well, we'll accomplish it by these things. By making new disciples who invite and reach out to our neighbors to do 3 things. Encounter God, grow in faith, and serve in Christ's love. Let's talk about this for a moment. Right? Encounter God. I mean, that can be a synonym to worship God, right? So we desire, I think we desire to encounter God in our own personal lives, don't we? We want to worship God. And I think we want more people just to encounter God, the incredible love and grace of our God. So we want people to encounter God in this world. I mean, why not? I thought about something that Kirk Cameron says, and he said, if you have the cure to cancer, wouldn't you share it? So I thought, well, if the cure to the world, why don't we share it? So I really think that we want more people just to encounter God. But then we know, just encounter God isn't enough, right? That we want people to grow in faith, to grow in their own faith with Jesus, and to find as many or the best opportunities to help them grow in their faith. But it doesn't just stop at our growing and our trusting in God. But we want to help them ascend and to serve, right? To serve in Christ's love, and to help people and let people know, and our neighbors, and our church, and our community, we want just people to know Christ's love. And so we serve as Christ's ambassadors. So the fresh mission of State Line UMC is to make new disciples of Jesus Christ. And we do that by inviting and reaching out to our neighbors to encounter God, grow in faith, and to serve in Christ's love. It's quite easy to memorize. Why do we exist? To make new disciples. How do we do that? To help people encounter, to grow, and to serve. Those are the words. I long, and I love to see children, youth, young adults, middle-aged adults, senior adults coming to become followers, new followers of Jesus Christ. by encountering, growing, and then serving in Christ's love. Imagine if we were a part of more stories of people turning their lives to Jesus. Imagine a couple of things. I like to imagine. So just imagine with me for a moment. Imagine seeing a young adult encounter God for the very first time. What their expressions would look like. Their inquiry, their new quest to follow after Jesus. Imagine a child or teenager not only encountering God, but wanting to grow in their faith. They begin to ask these amazing questions. I taught the children Sunday school class today, and I just asked them, what questions do you have about God? And the questions they have are incredible. I mean, some of them stumped me. I was like, whoa, I've never thought about these crazy things. But to see young minds like that just asking big questions about God and finding new ways to live out their faith in all aspects of their life. Imagine witnessing an adult who is new to faith and all they want to do is to serve everyone around them. All they want to do is serve and bless. Young kids learning about Jesus in our building. Families being cared for. Lives being turned toward God. And people experiencing freedom. This is what my desire is to be as your pastor. To help us figure out how do we do that. Now, it may lead us to do new things. To do different things. To not do some things. But it may all be worth it if more people come to know Jesus Christ. So I want to tell you two stories. The first story is about those couple of boys that I mentioned last year from VBS. Those boys who were at the Trinity Church in the corner. And I had just that connection with those 5 boys or 5 kids who lived right behind the church. And Ellen and I took them gifts for back to school time. But really just trying to have a connection with these kids who I know don't know Jesus. They come from a rough environment. So recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe over a month ago now, I was driving on Route 11 out here, and I saw them walking on the street. These boys are not more than 7 years old, right? So I saw them walking, right? So as a good hero of the day, I turn around my car, I quickly get next to them. Hopefully people didn't think I was a creeper. And I said, what are you guys doing, right? Why are you guys walking on Route 11? You know, people don't go slow there. They said, oh, we're just walking to a friend's house, and our parents know that we're going there. And then one more, Pastor Chris, you didn't forget about us. And then he said these words. He's like, Pastor Chris, when are we going to do that VBS-like thing again, right? I said, well, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm thinking about it, but I'll let you know. But I said these words. I said, but if you ever see my car in the parking lot of the church, just come on by. Let's talk and hang out. Well, like clockwork, 3 days later, 4 days later, ring, ring, ring on the back door, right? And who was it? 2 of those boys. And again, they asked that question. When are we going to have another VBS-like thing at the church? Church. We have kids coming to our back door, asking to encounter God. Literally. They're literally coming to our back door, asking for Jesus. They're coming here for Jesus. The second story. We all have talked about Tyler and Hannah a bunch. And we'll just continue to talk about them, but because I have one more story that just blows me away that I just have to share. We all know that they started worshiping here over a year ago, and he went off to basic training, and he had said to me when we had met one-on-one that he really wants to begin growing in his faith and learning how to be a husband in a Christian marriage when him and Hannah get married. So I knew that, right? What I didn't know was the entire time he was there, I've said this before, that he attended church while he was there, right? He attended every week he was there. He told me some of them were boring, some of them were good, and so we just had a okay time being there. So what part of what I didn't share with you was part of the challenge that they had were to read 100 or more Bible passages just during their time basic training. And recently, when I saw him last over Christmas, he handed me this dog tag that he read over 100 essential verses of the Bible while he was at basic training. And he handed this to me over breakfast. He said, I want you to have this because you helped me grow in my faith. So then what I said it wasn't me. It was this church. You have helped someone like Tyler read, maybe for the first time, the essential 100 verses of the Bible to grow in his faith. So this dog tag now sits in the corner of my desk to remind me of why I do this job. We have kids that are back to our church. We have young adults who are coming here to grow in their faith, when we hear that young adults aren't coming to the church anymore, we have them here. So my prayer and my vision over the last year, I just really believe, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, and that's okay. I can admit that I'm wrong. But I am just so convinced that God is literally slapping me across the face about caring for the kids of our community. Slapping me across the face. So I wonder how we can do that together. I talked about it twice last year, and I'm going to talk about it again. So, on Tuesday, January 31st at 6:30, we'll have a meeting here to dream about how we connect with kids. I don't know what that's going to be like. I have ideas, I have thoughts, but I found some cool photos of kids as well. And I had a technology fail. I couldn't figure out how to put those two together. But January 31st on a Tuesday night at 6:30 to dream about children in our community. Because I think I owe it to those two boys who came to our church to say, how can we do that? I know I can't do it alone. So I wonder how we can do it together as a church. This is just kids. But what about youth and young adults, and middle-aged adults, and older adults? How are we going to help make new disciples of Jesus Christ? To help them encounter God, to grow in their faith, and then serve in Christ's love, and then start the cycle all over again. Because I am convinced that we are living in a time that we can no longer assume that people know about Jesus. Those days of assumptions are over. We no longer can be okay with excuses like, oh, they must have heard about it before somewhere else. We can estimate that there are thousands of people within 5 or 10 miles of our church who don't know Jesus. So the words from Apostle Paul in Romans 10, I think, are most appropriate here. Hear these words again. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. For how are they to call on one whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in one of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone to proclaim him? And how are they to proclaim him unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. I think the words of Isaiah 6:8 also can be echoed here. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? So I ask State Line United Methodist Church, whom shall we send? And who will go for us? Let us stand. Let us sing